and she's going to be an attendee in January, because she has come to all of our retreats and just wants to do it for herself. So
sorry, interruption. For those just coming on, we are talking about retreat roles. And so Lamira's going to go through and explain what's going on for each role very quickly. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Okay. So the first one is, do you want me to show director, or just do the start with co-host?
Either, whatever you want to do.
Okay. So let me just show you real quick. So we've got the retreat director, who's basically, they're the umbrella. They make sure they're point of contact with the admin, with the, the lodging. They're really focused on that point of contact, booking the retreat site, making sure everything's done. They're really keeping track of the expenses, the planning, connecting with Connie about the agenda, the schedule. They're doing all this welcome table stuff, and Connie and I are going to be splitting that. And so we'll be working that, but most of this is templated, as she said earlier. So we're really excited about that, because we have a lot of that stuff already done. The director does the presenters coordination, committee management, okay, all of that stuff. And when it comes to the admin, and I put retreat host, which is basically either an admin, or one day when you are hosting your own retreat, that would be you. Okay, that's all we're all connecting, we're enrolling, we're doing all those things. The media, marketing, technical side, that right now is me. And I'm working with our social media gal to get all that stuff, if that makes sense. So all the back end stuff, all the emails, all that stuff, I go ahead and I update those. Okay.
So essentially, really quick, the retreat director is over making sure the environment is beautiful, it's conducive to the spirit, and all the things are working smoothly. All the items, the welcome, from the moment they come in, we welcome them. They go to the paper thing on the wall. We take them to the welcome table. We get their stuff put in their room. We make sure that all the pieces are all there. The presenters, they work with me, make sure the presenters and the agenda are all aligned. They just make sure that this whole setting is set up for people to have these beautiful spiritual breakthroughs.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for clarifying that. And they're the ones that's the person you'll come back to and say, okay, this is where we're at. You'll do a check-in with them. And then that retreat director will come back to the admin and say, here's where we are. This is what we're at. This is what we're working on. This is what we need done. Okay. We're on track. Okay. So then moving to the food director, that's Ingrid, and she's planning the menu, doing all the purchasing food, picking up, preparing, serving it, making it look lovely at the retreat, and just helping those women feel nurtured, right? Because we all feel nurtured through our food. It's beautiful and signature. So,
and one quick thing on the retreat director, it takes about how many hours, Lamira, anticipated?
It takes about 30 hours. Is that we've been, yeah.
Because we have it templated and it's all ready to go. Same thing with food director. We already know the menu. We keep pretty much the same one. We add one signature thing new each time at least, so that we keep it fresh, but we have it all in place and templated, so we know how this rolls out. You'll be able to see those templated documents so that when you do your retreat, you can see how it flows, and you can just plop your own food choices into those documents.
Yep. Okay, and we'll even have the sample menus we've used before, so you can make, oh, okay, this is kind of how this works. Okay. So then we have our retreat co-host, which is basically that your primary job is to nurture and coach those women, help them, one, get prepared for this retreat. You know what this retreat is all about, and you get to help them come in, feel prepared, like get in that mindset, welcoming them, letting them feel loved, that we're excited to have them there. You also get to help on site with the coaching groups. You're going to help break out the coaching groups. You're going to kind of keep that eye out saying, okay, let's put this person with this group. You're going to help work with me because I'm doing the back end, but keeping track of their assignments, so that a couple of weeks before the retreat, you're saying, hey, we're seeing you're getting this done. How's this going? Do you need help finding it? That kind of thing, making sure they get those done and seeing the importance of having those done. You also get to be a presenter. So you'll work with Connie to decide what part you'll present. You saw that Jody presented a little bit there. Okay. And then you're the on-site retreat coach I talked about. And then after the retreat, you're going to help those women who decide to come into the DTLC. You're going to help transition them in. We'll do an onboarding call, which we have that templated again of how to do that with the script and everything. You follow up with them. So you do that kind of transition there. Did I get everything there, Connie? Okay.
And then you're compensated for individually each of those people that come into DTLC for that transition onboarding call, then you're compensated for that as well. So you're compensated for being the co-host as well as that. When you're a presenter and you're just doing maybe a 15-minute thought or something like that, then that's just, you're just coming and getting that experience so that you can say, I've actually spoken at a retreat. If you're actually doing a 30 to 45 minute, usually it's about an hour long, 45-minute, hour long speaking thing as an official presenter, as a session presenter, then you will be compensated for being a presenter as an actual speaking fee.
You get a paid, and I'll put that in here too, but yeah, you get that paid speaking fee. So I love that. Okay. And then the retreat apprentice is basically, you get to be a presenter as well, that mini presenter, where you get your first step into being able to, it's part of your DTLA training, right? That you get to get it, stand and deliver a little bit. And then you'll help be one of the coaches when we break out, you get to be one of those help coaching those women in a breakout session. Okay. And we'll train you on how to do that. And then you could choose whether you want to be a food assistant or a tech assistant. We're not going to give you all the things, but basically assisting Ingrid in picking up the food, that you're on-site meal prepping, making it look good, setting out the food, cleaning it up, making it look pretty. Okay. And just making sure there's enough. The women have got all of that, and mainly helping Ingrid with the cleaning up.
And let me just say, Ingrid has it so slick. So when we say assistant, you're not going to be slaving in the kitchen all day long at all. It's mainly just a few minutes before she's going to be setting things out, and she may need you to bring up some dishes and then just help her set it out nice, probably 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. It's not a huge piece. It's just being able to be helping hands, just like you would at a relief site event and say, hey, what do you need? Oh, I can go put those out. We're good.
Just like her sweet daughter Emma did at the last retreat, right? So, and then the tech assistant is basically helping me out, learning a little bit more of the back end beforehand. And then while we're there, like making sure that we've got everything that we need, that the presenters have what they need. It might even be that I'm asking you to take pictures for social media and that kind of stuff. So if that makes sense, pretty easy. And both of those are pretty low key, if that makes sense. So because we don't have all kinds of major tech or whatever. So, and same with templated. So that's basically our roles. And so
let me just say, even though they are low key, it doesn't mean they are not vital. So just so you know, each of these pieces, there's a reason why we keep everything running lean. We like to have it very lean. Dude Perfect, they have 58 million subscribers. They have 11 employees. So we run it lean. We don't want a lot of moving parts, and we want people being able to move into other roles as needed. And that helps you so that when you actually do your retreat, you know exactly how to do all these pieces. And if you needed to be a one-man, two-man show, you totally could, and it would be fine.
And we know you can, because we've done that. and that's why we've done it broken out, like, okay, what would help us get this smoother, if that makes sense. So anyway, beautiful. And once it happens, and Connie, once we decide roles, then we'll get together and wherever it is, and just kind of touch base, because we've got some women that have been enrolling and we want to get them nurtured and going. So, so when we've got those roles, then I'll just meet with you and we'll say, okay, here's what's first. And we'll do a little bit of training. So
we'll do our official retreat training, and that would be great. All our official admin meeting. So we will decide today, and then we can look at doing a meeting for next week, if that works for you ladies. Okay.
All right. I'm going to shout out.
Go ahead. Love you. Thanks so much, Lamar. She's headed to another meeting and she's gone a little bit over. Thank you so much for taking the time, babe. Okay. Bye, Levin. And a shout out to sweet Amanda, who's got her retreat in November. Yes. So stinking excited. It has an amazing retreat director. So stinking excited. So, and Lamar's getting it all. You can see it's all pretty. She's making it all prettified so that you can see what this is. And then you can share that with your retreat director and make sure that, you know, you guys are all on the same page and you've got those bells and whistles and things like that all taken care of. Okay. So now that we've gone through that, any thoughts about roles for the September retreat? And I think, Amanda, you're not going to be able to come, right? Yeah. So no worries, no stress at all. So,
but I was wondering if you wanted me to do abundance again, like the money mindset, and if you wanted me to pre-record it.
I would love for you to pre-record it. I know we had kind of talked about you possibly popping in at a live if we bumped it to like a Saturday or something. Would that still work for you?
It would probably be better. Let me look. Let me look at my work schedule really quick. Because I'll have family in town because my boys are giving their homecoming addresses that Sunday. So if we could do it if we did first thing in the morning.
That would actually work perfectly. Time change, would that still work for you?
Mm-hmm. So you're looking, it would be like 7:30 my time, right? Because you start usually at 8:30 your time.
Yep, 8:39. Would that, what would be the best time for you? Tell us what's the best time for you.
That would be the best time for me, like first thing in the morning. So 8:30 your time would be 7:30 my time. They'll just be doing breakfast stuff in the back. I'll just go to another area and we can make that work and I could pop in live.
You know, that would be fantastic. I still, I think for presenters, and I'll talk about with Katrina. Katrina has opted to be the co-host, the retreat co-host for this retreat. Oh, my head. I'm relegated out to the deck because we can't do anything in the house right now. So I'm like, I've got all the things that I need right here. And I'm like, my head is swirling. But I do want to say I'm just so dang grateful, that it's moving forward, because I know so many people are not able to get workers to come because it's so busy. So anyway, I'm just super grateful. So if I say anything, just know it's not a whine. I'll let you know if I'm whining. All right, you'll know. So that would be perfect, Amanda. That would be just perfect. Let's plan for that on the Saturday, the money mindset. That's great. So what sounds good if we have her be the co-host? Katrina, is there a preference that you have of any particular thing? Is there anything that resonated with you when she was reading those off?
I definitely want to present in some way. At first I was thinking just a like morning devotional thing, but I could do something bigger. Like, I don't mind if I just if you wanted me to do one of the other M's, I would be okay with that. Or, I don't know.
One of the things that I had listed out, we know for sure our origin story is available. Like, how has origin story impacted you being able to do your one big message and find your one big thing? The other thing is creating your mini keynote, the process that it's gone through, going through that, and what you learned through that, and how you ultimately came up with your final keynote to help them, those gals who are sitting there and going, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to do this. Being able to give them like little tips and tools of here's some things I learned through it. And the other one would be anything to do with marketing. If you found that there's been some great marketing tools or things that you've done as a mom and saying, this is what has made it doable and enjoyable for me to do marketing. Any of those three things for sure, we know we need, but we can definitely use that and make that work.
Yep. I don't want to do the origin story. As soon as you said that, it was like, nope, that's not what I want to do. But the marketing or the keynote would be.
Raylene, what about you? Do you have a preference either way? I could totally see you doing either one of those. And I'm thinking the marketing might actually be good, Katrina, because I think they need a mom and I'm busy and they are so overwhelmed by the idea of marketing. And I think you could give them some really good tips and tools of let's not get stressed about this.
Sure. Yeah.
Would that work?
I can do that. Yeah.
Raylene, what about you? How do you feel about that?
It's funny because when we very first started talking about retreat a couple weeks ago, when you talked about origin story, I was like, oh no. But then like when I've been thinking about it and you just said it, I'm like, I think that's what I'm supposed to do. So
wow. Okay, do you feel that when we do origin story, I'll teach the pieces of it, but what I'm looking for is someone to be able to say, this is how I utilized it. Like, I went through my origin story and this is how it actually impacted and made it powerful to use those tools and be able to make that happen. Because you had a cool experience with that origin story, I felt. But does that sound about right then?
Yeah, I think so. And because I feel like that's something that I could like truly personally talk about and like resonate with, because like even the keynote process I'm still in, so I'm like to stand up and be like, this is how you do it. I don't know.
like I'm not there yet. I'm getting there, but I'm not there yet. Yeah, that's
definitely still working on, baby in the marketing scene. So I think that's perfect for Katrina also.
I think this is fantastic. And then Amanda, money mindset, beautiful, totally done, nice. Okay, that sounds fantastic. And then we will do more on this later, but if you would go back to the pieces in the guidebook and read through those areas. So read through the origin story. Raylene, I'm going to add on, we have a module that is that we went through and did with the origin story. If you want to go back and kind of revisit that and make sure you hit all those things I went through with Jody, and then I went through with you guys after. But when I went through and did that one with Jody, I went through each thing, the catalyst, and that, I mean, I went through each point. So it might be good to refresh that.
Okay.
And then for Katrina, if you want to just work up, what we do for each thing is we have you email in just a bullet point, your hook, your main message, and then your hook. So you don't even have to have a title on it if you don't want to. But if you want a title, what we'll do is we'll send you the slide deck for the detail slide deck, and then you'll just go ahead and put your stuff on your slides. And you'll have an intro slide that will have your picture and it'll have your title and that kind of a thing. And then if you want to have a title on it, have your title right there on the intro slide, or you can just have your intro slide if you're like, I don't need a title, I'm just giving tips to tools. But then if you could send email the main point, the main message, your hook, then your 3 bulleted points or 1 bulleted point, whatever you're having time for, whatever. And then your stats, your stories, whatever. This is so important that you get used to this. There's a reason why I have you do these things in practice. When you do video 5, when you do video chatter, when you do these things that are out there, they're going to ask you for your talking points. They'll call them talking points, or a variety of things that you're going to need to have: main message, and then your intro, and then you'll have to have these things that if you put down like your hook, you're going to say, maybe for them, you'd say intro, but it has to make sense enough that they can follow your outline without you giving all these details. When I first started out, oh my gosh, you guys, I would send Studio 5 like this intense, almost like a talk. And then finally they were so kind, they were like, you can just bullet point it. That's so great. Anyway, so I learned just bullet points, and then enough of the story, a sentence, maybe 2, that gets to the point of the story. When I was preparing for Ed Week, had the download to use this thing, and it changed everything. Blah, done. So as they're reading, they can see, oh, this flows. And then if you have a quote or a scripture or something, then put that in caps, say quote, and then put the quote, or scripture, 1 Nephi 17:5 or whatever, so that we can see the flow from it. This also helps you, because I have to do this for Education Week, and I can guarantee when I submit it in October, or no, now they do it in February. When I submit it in February, come June, I can't even remember what the heck I submitted. So it's so nice to have all of those details. All I do is pull it up and I'm like, oh, I remember what the divine downloads were that I had then that I can't remember now. So anyway, send that to me. And if you can do that in the next week or 2, that would be super ideal. No stress, but just if you could do that in the next week or 2, that would be great. And then we know we've got it all organized. We really like to have the retreat prepared way ahead of time. So that way, if anything changes or anything's point of, we're not stressed. We're like, well, okay, we have our base, but if we need to shift it, that's fine too. And then keep your slides to a minimum. Remember, for about 15 minutes, you want maybe 2 to 3 slides, unless what you're saying is really visual. If you're only 15 minutes, you don't really even need to have slides if you don't want them, unless you want like a really significant show, don't tell picture, and that's great. Or if you're hitting 3 to 5 tips, then you'd want to just put the tip and then add the next tip and then add the next tip, so it's not overwhelming them with slides. If you're doing about 45 minutes, you want to have 5 to 15 slides. Now, I say that laughing because I always end up having like 30, 35 slides. But the reason why is because if I'm giving tips, I give them one at a time and I duplicate the slides. So I just really count that as kind of one slide, because I'm not just and barfing it out. And the other reason is I like using a lot of show, don't tell. So I'm using a lot of pictures. And if I'm doing that, then I'm not so stressed about having 30 slides or something like that in a presentation, because it keeps it exciting and interesting, and for a reason. It's purposeful. So does that make sense? So if you want, on your bulleted point thing, you can also, if you feel a need to, you can just do slide, the word slide, and then next say pick of blah, blah, blah. And then we know, oh, that's what they're doing. If you don't want to do too intense right now, it's totally fine. Just send us so that we get an idea of the flow of what you're doing. We just like to check through and make sure. Whatever you do, please make sure you're using scripture, conference talks, really that detail thing. Flip through the guidebook and see the main signature talks that we refer to, especially in your section. So when you look at the section that the origin story's in, or the marketing, then make sure you look at those talks that we're referring to. It really helps if you can just nail that and solidify it. When we talk about the harvest or the flood, sweep the earth as a flood by Elder Bednar, we don't want you necessarily to keep repeating the same quotes that we're using, but if you can draw something from that or a related thing to that, that's great. That adds and then it builds on it. So does that make sense? Everybody clear? Yay! Okay, let's plan out. That sounds fantastic. Let's move to, we didn't start with wins and learning, but I want to know wins and learning, and then let's tell me where you're at on your keynote. We want to be recording your keynote this week. We wanted to actually record it last week, but we're going to record it this week. Raise your hand if you feel like you're ready to record the keynote, and don't feel badly if you're not, because I know this is a creation and it's in flux. So don't stress that. We'd rather get it done right than rush through it. And we've got time. We're DTLAs, so we got time. So raise your hand if you feel like you're ready to record your keynote. Okay, that's great. Then let's just work on a final rough. Okay, does that sound like a plan? I want it done to where you feel like I'm ecstatic about this keynote. Like I can't wait to give it. But if you're like, oh, I'm just going to throw it out there just so I can say that I've got it done, I don't want that. I know you're working on it. So that's good. This week, though, by next Tuesday, I would love for you to send your final keynote rough, keynote outline. So not written out word for word, but your rough keynote outline, same kind of thing with the talking points that we just said. I want you to be able to, someone could sit and read through that and they could get the flow of what's happening. Okay. A little tip on the intro. Intro should be 5 to 7 minutes. Now that's not a commandment, but I just got a submission from one of the other gals and she had, her intro was about 2 pages. And that is a no. You're going to lose them so fast. The intro is to set up the whole keynote. So for example, if you're going to be talking about, like, I'm just trying to pull from someone in the speaking track. So Angela's talking to parents about, well, we just talked with Lindsay and we just did her 4 Ps. She's setting up the 4 Ps. So when she was talking, she was kind of starting out like, oh, I just kind of want to get them thinking about like their opinions on things and like kind of things that they think in their mind, but that maybe don't say aloud. And then maybe some opinions on some funny things and stuff. She's like, but then I've been talking with Amanda and I'm like, well, she's all in the education system and I want to talk, you know, you want to have a specific group in mind when you're speaking to them, right? That's why it's so important to get a gig as soon as possible, because then you're already thinking, how can I create that keynote for that person? I'm creating a keynote for Education Week. Now I'm using my plug and play principles, but I'm creating it for that, I'm doing new ones because I'm talking about talks from President Nelson. So, and I loved your thing that you sent, Katrina, that's so great. But being able to have that be specific, but I'm still drawing from my DTLA keynote. So anyway, as she was talking through it, she said, I can't seem to get the two together. Like I know what I want to talk about and I know I need to get them to the 4 Ps, but I don't know how to get them in between and like transition. So what we came up with, she was genius that she was starting out at the beginning with funny. And that is so her way and her manner. And she said, I wanted to start with some things that we call them safe, controversial topics, like pineapple on pizza, yes or no, right? Men wearing short shorts. I mean, we were rolling. You can just see the visual that she pops up. So let's just think of some unsaid things that you would have. Someone walks by and you put up a picture of a man in short shorts. What are some of those things that are going through your mind, but you're not maybe going to say them? Like, what's some of the unsaid, right? So she's setting up. What she started out with, though, was not saying the unsaid. She just said, I want to start out with something kind of funny. And I said, no, get that red thread, start at the beginning. What's the unsaid that you're not saying when you see that, right? And then you can kind of be funny and connect them on that. Remember, top layer, it's 1, 2, 3 layers. The top layer, you want to break through that defensive top layer of, I don't know if I even want to hear what you have to say, but I'm sitting here anyway. Even if they chose to be there, you break through that learning layer and you go, you know what, I'm laughing, I'm open, and I can share some opinions that are not going to be like, you know, someone's not going to take umbrage against it because it's pineapple on pizza. Okay. It's not like, you know, world peace. So then she could go from that funny thing to what are some of the other unsaid things that you have in your life? Those are kind of that superficial thing. But what about things that are unsaid that have stayed with you? Maybe an argument you had with your spouse and you still have those wriggling unsaid things, that unsaid zinger that you wish you would have said, or this one piece of evidence that if you would have been able to share, they would totally be on board with what you were talking about and they would understand completely. So going into that deeper thing of, and then, well, what about at work? What about that person that responded this way to your idea in front of everybody, and you have that unsaid thing still weighing on your heart of how that felt and not processed, not really addressed? And then she said, we talked about going through this activity of having the people, I said, it's important that they start personalizing it to the next level. So once they've gotten that funny superficial, and then they've been able to share opinions out loud and it's a safe space, and then you start pulling it into your theme, getting a little more personal, you want to have them be able to be personal introspection. They're not going to share this out loud just yet. You want to have them write something down, feel something, and then put it down so it's still private and safe. And then they can choose how much they want to share or not. So we came up with the activity of she could start having them share in the last week, the last month. What are some of those unsaid things that have been weighing on them? And then have them write it down in home, in work, in whatever. And then she can have them have a personal physical evidence that when she says, how many unsaid things have been weighing on your heart just in the last week or month, right? Think about the last 6 months, the last year, the last 5 years, the last 10 years that you haven't really gotten rid of. And then, there's a reason why I'm going through this and sharing this, so you can, as you go through your keynote, you can kind of get this idea of how this could physically play out. And then as she was talking, I said, well, here's an idea. What do you think about, does anybody watch Mark Rober on YouTube at all? He started out kind of doing like fun stuff. He's an influencer, so he's got millions of views, whatever. Anyway, on escape rooms, he's an engineer and just kind of fun, but he's really fun about it. Well, now he's doing these cause-driven things. So he did team trees, and he did this competition, and it's ended up they planted like 20 million trees or something like that. It's incredible. Now he's doing team ocean, and you guys, it's so worth watching. Like, I was blown away. He did a competition where he said, okay, these guys are going to go out on the beach and they're going to clean up the beach. And the beach was just horrendous. And they had all these volunteers. And he said, we're going to have a competition, see how much we can get, who can get the most garbage. And he had this goal and blah, blah, blah. He said, I'm going to use this robot, this boat robot that this guy invented to go through the rivers and just clean up. And it pulls it up on this conveyor belt and just gets the garbage out. So while these guys are sweating it, he's on the boat and he's like sipping a sarsaparilla and kind of like, yeah, working it. Anyway, the cool thing is that he said, we collected all this garbage between the two of us. We collect all this garbage, but we know that this isn't the right point of solution. There's a better solution. So where is the garbage coming from? Well, he showed pictures of these cities in third world countries where they don't have a garbage collection system. So people are throwing it over the wall and down the banks of the river, and it's getting the pictures. I mean, we know this cerebrally, but you guys, that show don't tell, it's still in my mind. I was like, sign me up. Where do I donate? It was unreal, the garbage. And people they're bathing, they're getting drinking water from these things. I mean, it's just, so anyway, as Lindsay is talking about this, getting rid of this emotional, this shredding and getting out the stuff that kind of is damaging, then we talked about, what about a show don't tell of what happens to that garbage if you don't get rid of it at the point of feel, right? In that immediacy, it just piles up. Can you see how that can be an amazing show don't tell? And when you have the right tool, i.e. this robot, i.e. go to the point of thing and get a garbage system in place, what do you think's a perfect setup? What's coming? What do you think she's going to share? It's her shred writing.
Her P's.
Right? The 4 P's of it's pain, and then showing the cost of this emotional garbage. See the damage, just like in this country, this is the emotional damage we don't even realize is happening, and it's seeping into our lives. They now have a visual to feel the yuck of that. Then they can see it physically on their paper and go, wow, I've got to find something. But it's not a one-time hit. It's not a one-off. It's a practice. So then she can make the point of going to the core point of impact and saying, if you make this a practice, you're cleaning this out all the time. So rather than just here, get this download and write on a piece of paper and shred and burn, now I'm going to teach you the practice and the whys of this and how to make it into a daily practice, which will lead them to want to connect with her. Otherwise, they're just going to go, well, I can just take a piece of paper and a notepad and I can just shred write. I don't need to buy her black book. I don't need to be with her. She's not trying to manipulate them into getting something that she wants them to get simply because she wants it. She knows the practice is going to be more effective for them. She's just got to convey that to them. So in that way, she can effectively convey the need for it by helping them feel the yuck of if they don't, And then the clean river, she can show the clean river aftermath of, oh my gosh, that looks amazing. It feels fresh. Can you almost feel that keynote, how good that's going to feel? And now she's made her point without having to drill it, but sharing, hey, here's how you can do it. So I wanted to give you that example, one example, to be able to say, in my keynote, am I hitting those points? Am I making those transitions? Am I doing the show, don't tell? Am I building the need for the thing that I know is going to be the most transformative for them that they don't know yet? One of the biggest things that I'm hearing from women on writing their keynotes is they have a hard time conveying the impact of what they know their thing can do and put it in terms that they can understand, the audience can understand. Any thoughts, feelings, or ideas on what I've just shared?
I love the garbage imagery, and I think that that goes so well with the story brand book that we were just talking about this week in CTLC, because he talks about like show them that if they don't use your product, where they're going to be stuck, or show them, you know, and don't spend so much time on that, but help them see the contrast. The contrast is what makes the difference in our heads, right? The contrast is what makes us go, oh, I need that. It's so that, you know, and in fact, this article I just wrote for Work and Wonder that's coming out this week, it's all about opposition and like appreciating the opposition so that you can do more, so that you can see the good, because there's so much. I mean, that is why God made it, so that there's opposition in all things, is that we can see the contrast, and so then we can dive into that with our businesses, with our stories, with our marketing, being able to just paint that picture for people. And sometimes we'll get stuck in this like, well, they should know that, or of course they know that, but it's like you said with the garbage, you're like, I know that garbage is everywhere, but I don't see it all the time, therefore it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. But if I can see the picture, then it's so much more powerful, and I want to do something about it.
That's it. And I love you brought up those keywords. Remember how I'm always talking about I was X and now I'm Y. Pain point to ideal life. He says in Story Brand, he says the tragic results, right? We need to show them, and not in a, oh, I hate that mattress cutting, you know, way, not in that annoying way, but in a very clear, let it speak for itself, show, don't tell way. What happens? And you can do that with a picture or with a stat. When Ashley says you are 97% more successful if you involve a coach in what you do, 97% more successful, like that's out of control. And when Amanda's talking about this number of kids, we are only graduating this number of kids a year. It's shocking, right? And you're not trying to be exaggerative or over the top, but what you're doing is trying to let the truth speak for itself. And when you speak it, you're going to pause. You're going to let the truth do the work. Instead of talking over it immediately, you're going to pause that and let that sink in. I know Ashley does a really good job with showing that quote, saying it, and then she's like, that is an incredible statistic. That is out of control statistic of giving them context, because sometimes people, it's a no-brainer, but some people may not really understand. Wow, that is amazing. Any other thoughts or even questions? If you come here, I want to make sure I answer your questions if you've got questions about your keynote, but I wanted to make sure that you saw those pieces so that when you're doing your final rough outline, you know you've hit those beats, those things that you can almost see your keynote in pictures. Amanda is really good at this, where I can almost see exactly what she's teaching, what she's doing.
One other thing I just thought as you were talking is the difference, I think, between, you know, the mattress thing versus like what Ashley does is there's no shame in it, right? Like we're not saying, hey, you're here and you shouldn't be here. It's like, it is totally normal for us to be here, but let's show a better way. Let's, you know, the more excellent way that is referred to in the scriptures, or the Aaronic Melchizedek thing. And it's like, it's okay that you're at Aaronic. It's not a shame thing to be down here, but let me show you what else could happen. Let me open your mind and help you think it differently. And that's the shift, right? That's the, anyway, but I like how, I mean, it just came like, there's just no shame in how you're talking about it.
That's right. And I love the thought that you brought up. You know, that's what I was just talking with Angela about her keynote, is especially talking to people who already feel nervous that they're failing, constant reassurance and reassuring them through that. And I love that you make that point. Make the point that we're all here and we've all been here at some point, and it's okay to be here, but we don't want to stay here, or we don't have to stay here. And that's where you show them the possibilities. You're here, but you don't have to stay here. Do you want it? Do you want to be here? Because if you want to be here, I can take you there. That's the message we want to give them. And that is the core. So that's where you become that guide, where you build the environment to showcase you're here, but what is that costing you to stay here? And what are the possibilities you haven't even considered about being here? I've been there. I've got myself there. I know how to get there, and I can guide you there. Let's go. For those that want to be there. And for those that don't, there's no shame. Stay. Be happy here. No stress. But I'm showing options. So that's beautiful. I love it. And that's not manipulative. It's absolutely the way the Savior does it. It's agency. It's all agency based. Showing the plan. Heavenly Father showed the plan and said, here's the plan. This is what you can choose. And you get to choose what part you want to be in it. Any other questions on your keynote as you're writing this out? Just follow the Keystone keynote for your rough outline, right? Don't try to make up something new. I mean, unless you feel impressed to or want to, but don't make this harder than it is. Just follow that outline. It's perfect. Then there's also in the back, there's the message checker in the guidebook, and it will go through and help you be aware of some of these details so that you can check and make sure that your rough has it. If you can get your rough nailed, speaking it is going to be just a matter of just making it finessed. That's like you've got all the pieces for the reception that you put together, and now it's just putting it on the table and making sure the lights glow, right? Any other tips, tools, questions, any other thoughts?
I am staying really quiet. I'm sorry, but I'm just like soaking like a sponge right now. Having so many thoughts and ideas and everything come, and I actually just literally felt the Spirit say, because my intro is all about storms, and I'm like, Raylene, you gotta go war, not storm, because like the whole warrior mom, the whole stripling warriors, like the whole thing, and I'm like, you gotta flip it. Like you gotta. So I just am, yeah, it's just coming and I'm just absorbing. So I don't want you to think I'm not participating, but I'm just, I should see my, just, it's
She's
just
working it over here. I love it. And that's what I hope for. So don't feel like you ever have to participate if you don't want to. I want to make sure you have lots of opportunity to, because sometimes I worry that I'm sharing too much and you're like, yeah, we got that already. So I want to keep touching and making sure that you guys are like, no, I actually came here with a question and I need it solved.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
I love that you brought that up, because think about that hook. And that was Lindsay's issue, where she's like, I've got this hook, but it's not really connecting to the body. And we want to make sure that that hook sets it up. So ideally you can bookend. So then you can go back to that bookended thing and say, now she can go back to that bookended thing and she can say, remember that list that you have of the unsaid things? What are you going to do with that? Because otherwise it's just going to build up like that garbage. So that story that she can tell, she can put that picture, and all she has to do is put one picture of it up. And what happens? Everybody has all of the mental connections that she just did, and she's just reaffirmed it. Now she's hit a second hit on that in their brain and their heart, so that now they remember all the feels that they had going through it, and the brain does it in like milliseconds. So that's why bookending is so powerful. If you can do it, to me, it's the ideal way, and it's satisfying. People love that. Like if you look at the Marvel movies, they're so good at that. They always wrap up those bookended pieces, or they leave you on a cliffhanger, but the cliffhanger bookends to the beginning or whatever. So think about how you can bookend those particular stories. Sweet Angela, in that she had a huge, big beginning to her presentation, and she was talking about vegetables. Like, it would be great if you could have, how many get enough vegetables? But if you just have one thing that you do, like eating healthy, if you just added one more vegetable, whatever. And I told her, I said, that's an example. That's not a hook story. A hook story has got to be powerful. It's got to be something that you can bookend back to and it makes them feel something. So she had another story that was buried farther down and it was gorgeous. It's this Olympian and Allison something or other. Anyway, and I'm remembering it because it's a story, right? And she's running this last leg of the relay and she drops the baton. She drops it and they lose gold. The next time they go to do the relay and they get back to the Olympics, the next time they do it, I mean, the first time she's heartbroken at all the impact of that. The next time they're savvy, they know exactly what to do and they've changed some key things that they did and they win gold. So it was a perfect example for parenting where her thing that she's going to share is change this one thing. I'm going to give you 3 tips. Choose one and choose this parenting thing starting today. And these 3 tips you can put into practice right now today, and they will start getting results immediately. So do you think those parents are going to be the edge of their seats? They're seeing that baton drop. And then she went right into saying, where was the baton dropped for you, do you feel, starting with their parents? Because you can't start with them of where you're dropping the baton, because how are they going to feel? Like loser parents, right? Right off the bat. Where are you being a loser parent? They're going to be like, oh my gosh. And then the rest of the time, they're going to be like trying to process all this guilt that's going to come up. So you start with their parents. Where did it drop for your parents? Well, you know what? My parents yelled at me all the time. Or my parents did this. Or I remember they did that. I remember my mom wouldn't let me wear nylons as a 6th grade cheerleader. And I was the only one that didn't wear them. And I was mocked. But I'm not bitter. I'm super good. I process that. I feel really good about myself. But anyway, so, and it's good to start out with funnies like that. Again, always try to start out with that first layer before you get to secondary and tertiary layers of those deeper things as you're going through your keynote. But anyway, so she could then have those 3 things, those tips. And as she starts out with the parents, their parents, then they can go, yeah, that I didn't like that. And then she can say, what would have happened? What would have shifted in you if that one principle had shifted, if that one behavior wasn't present? What would childhood have been like for you? And what would you be like now, do you think, if that one thing had shifted? Well, how do you think they're feeling? Like, yeah, if they didn't yell at me every time I did something wrong, I wouldn't be a perfectionist right now or whatever, right? And we're not blaming parents. And she makes that point. This is not about that. The baton has been passed to you and you get to choose to do it differently. One skill at a time. Did you guys get goosebumps on that at all? Because it's up and down my arm. I mean, I'm just like, yes, this is the way we can nail this. Then what do you think she does at the end? She actually at the beginning, I encourage her to get a physical baton. And as people are sharing, she hands it to people and they start sharing, right? And then at the end, she wanted to bring someone up on stage. And I said, do it after they've done their work on paper. Say, what is the one thing you're going to go home and do differently today out of the 3 tips that I shared? Have them write it down, have them turn and share it to the person next to them, and then ask for a volunteer to come up on stage. You never want to have a volunteer come up before you've done your prep work, because then you're taking a whole lot of chances. You want to eliminate all of those chances as much as possible so they're really clear when they get on stage what they're going to say. But she could have someone just share it from right in the crowd and just say, what is one thing you want to share? And just have several people share, which would be super inspiring, quite frankly. And then they could even share it to that person before they share out loud to the group. They could share to that one person. So anyway, now you can see that baton. Then she can put that picture up and say, we all have 2nd, 3rd, 25th, 2,600 chances as parents to do it differently, to pick up that baton and run the race and do it differently and win that gold in parenting. And we can do it with this one tip that you're starting with now. If you want to have more tips, I've got a newsletter that shares tips for parents. Easy, easy, easy. Or she can also go to, she does that as an opt-in earlier on, as she's sharing tips, and say, if you want more in this tip, you can go into my newsletter. I share a tip a week and you can da-da-da. And then at the 2/3 mark, she can say, if you want more tips and you want some help, you want some coaching and how to get that skill set and get that baton in the right place at the right time, I have a course that has weekly coaching that you can come with your questions and I can answer them for you. So you can get that help in real time and really enhance those skill sets so that you can do it as you're practicing. So anyway, hopefully you can understand what I'm saying. I think this is helpful show don't tells of how you can make your keynote into this stellar signature experience rather than just giving them line by line information with some cool slides. Any thoughts or questions at all, or any thoughts on what I've shared? Amanda?
Yeah, I was just going to let you know. So kind of what I'm doing is, because I do have that retreat coming up in November. So I've printed all of your slides, like I've printed all of the content, and I'm just trying to memorize that content and then plugging in my stories. So it's not like really like a big long keynote. It's just like, okay, I'm going to plug in my origin story here. Does that work okay?
Oh, that works great. Did you see the ones that have the scripts, the actual scripts of it? Now you will notice if you go on to all of the retreat trainings that we have available, we've done a couple of different retreats. And so you'll see different versions, things where I emphasize some things and when I didn't emphasize other things. So you're welcome to, as long as you hit those main points, it's totally great. As long as you teach those key points of those 4 M's, that's totally great. So if you want to, when you submit a rough outline, you can just put key point on, say, mindset or whatever. Hey, here's the 3 key points that she covers or whatever. And here's my story. Here's my stat. Here's my quote, whatever.
Okay, perfect. Because that's all I would.
If it's easier for you to not double do, I mean, I like having a bulleted rough to work from, but if you just want to go right onto the slides and just do the slides, if that's easier for you, you guys feel free. I don't like doing slides until the very last. I end up changing out slides and it takes too much time. I like just having a rough to go from, and then I put slide, till I've got it to where I'm like, the slides are really what are running my keynote, and then I'm putting stories on the side and the key point that I want to make, and then the story, the stat, whatever. And then when you go on the Zoom, you guys probably know this already, but just in case you don't, when you go on your presentation and you go PowerPoint, you can do the button. I can't remember, it's on the bottom, but you can do the button that does the presenter notes. And it just has that little blank thing underneath the slide in the presenter view that nobody else sees. You'll just see it. And it's got this blank space about this much on the bottom. And you can put all the notes that you want in there. So you don't have any paper copy. You don't have anything you're bringing up. And you look stellar. You look like you know exactly what you're talking about. All I put in there is just like a buzzword of a story or a buzzword of a key point that I'm making. And then all I have to do is just, or the scripture, Helaman 5:12, and I'm like, okay, got it. I know exactly what I'm talking about. So all I have to do is glance down, I see the note, and then I know what I'm talking about for the slide that's behind me. So the rough keynote is really for you to just, it's your structure, it's your framework, it's your foundation, it's you getting it clean, that scaffolding, and then you can just take that and make whatever notes you want in your actual PowerPoint presentation. You can also use Google Slides, you can use whatever, but I've got to tell you, I've heard more problems with Google Slides than I have with PowerPoint, just so you know. So I encourage you, use the format that not only you're comfortable with, but that is most widely used when you go speak somewhere. Because cookies to a donut, there's going to be tech problems. I probably had, I don't know, in the last 10 years, maybe 2 times I've had tech problems, maybe 3. And that's mainly because I use PowerPoint. I also have a print copy when I go, just in case, and I've had that happen, where for some reason the tech was down. It wasn't just for me, it was for everyone. The tech was down and I just went off my paper copy of the slides and I knew exactly what I was saying. So I just did a paper printout. But anyway, those are just little tips to remember so that you're prepared whatever way, but super slick. If you use PowerPoint, I don't know, personal favorite, I never have an issue with it. So unless they have a problem with tech and it's not anything to do with PowerPoint. All right, for next week's homework, then final rough keynote outline. And then I will post the link for Ingrid's training for retreats. I think Amanda's already watched everything we have on retreats, probably 3 times, probably hasn't memorized and could teach it, just saying. But Raylene and Katrina, I'll go ahead and post that. We, on our schedule, on our kind of our timeline, we're actually right on, so you're great. But this week we are talking about retreat roles and retreat training. So it would be a good thing for you to just go in, watch it, and get an idea of the retreat roles and the training and how it flows and all the details, and just get that file drawer for it for the moment that you're actually doing your own. But it will help you when you come to the retreat, you'll have an idea of what all the moving parts look like and how it runs. Sound good? All right, I love you, ladies. Please send me your final rough outline. So send it to each other by Tuesday, so that people can look over it, do peer review, and get it back to you, and then you can make any changes for next Friday. I am asking you to do a recording of a chunk. So choose a section and do a recording and send it to your person with that final rough outline. Now, don't worry about it. You don't have to be in certain clothes. You don't have to have your hair all done or whatever. It's a rough. So just do it like you want to speak it for one section like you've done before, but send the whole final rough keynote outline to your peer partner with it. Does that make sense? Yes, Raylene.
Origin story. How long does that need to be?
For origin story, probably just 15 minutes, because I'm going to teach it and then you're going to come in and kind of just say, this is the experience I had with it. So like 10 10 to 15 minutes of just, these are the 3 tips that helped me to be able to use my origin story when you go to do it.
Okay, and then I think I would like to do The Apprentice for the retreat. And then I'm awesome with helping with food. I'm not great with tech, but I know I do need to learn it, so I can help with what I can help
Whatever.
with. Yeah.
You're the best. You know what? We can have you do both of those, and they're really not hard. Once we get tech set up, it's very beginning, and it usually isn't an issue. Jody just had 1 or 2 things that she had to look at, and that was it for the whole time. It just stays the same. And when we bring in someone that's coming in like an Amanda, we just have you bring her in about 15 minutes before, and she doesn't have to stay there, but just that we know tech is working, and then when it's on, then she's on. So Lemira will work with you on it. It's just super slick.
Okay. Yeah. Happy to help with her.
Yay, you guys, this is so fun. I'm so excited. All right. Thank you so much, ladies. Love you. Have a great week. And if you have any questions, mark on me. Okay. I love you.